Welcome to the Business Coach Podcast, The Struggle is Real, a podcast about the truth of business, the ups and the downs. Join us each week for the naked truth and some unbelievable guests. Now here's your host, Conrad Padilla.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm really glad you guys could be here. We have a really cool guest today, man. He's got like one of the most diversified backgrounds of anybody that I know. I mean, it's like a Navy SEAL and you know, like an Army guy. It's like they're from two different spheres, but we're going to talk about that. So do get David Ciemny and you know, David. What's interesting about your background, though, is, I mean, you know, you're obviously involved in the network marketing profession, and you know, we're going to talk about that because I am too, and I have been for a long time as well. But it's interesting because you and I actually met from the network marketing industry. In fact, I don't even know if you remember this or not, but you know, I think you were somewhere, and we started talking. We were at a convention or something, or I don't even remember what it was. Well, how did we meet?
LA Convention Center, and I think it was the bodybuilders show.
Okay.
And you had a bottle of juice. Yeah. I had a bottle of juice.
Yeah,
and
people
the
thought
rest is history.
Yeah, people thought we were both drunks. Yeah. We had bottles walking around with bottles of wine, right?
But one thing I'll tell you is, I took one look at you and your whole setup, and I went, "There's a guy that does it right. All in or go home." That's really where you were at. Right. So I was blown away from the first time I met you.
Yeah. And you know, I was too. It's interesting because, you know, I got your number, and that was years ago.
Yeah.
It was years ago. And I like to stay in touch with people that I have that we just kind of have that right, you know, the right what's the word I'm looking for, Taylor?
Just the kind of energy,
vibe, the right vibe,
yeah.
if you will. And you know, we kept in touch and everything, and then I started learning more about your background and all that, and you know, the thing about it is you're exactly what I tell people that they should be as far as an entrepreneur. I mean, you have a very diversified background, multiple income streams. But why don't we kind of roll into like network marketing? Let's talk about that for a second.
Let's do it.
Because I think what happens a lot of times too with, you know, network marketing, direct selling, most of the reason that people have a problem with it is because they really are ignorant to it. They really don't understand the model. I mean, I was. You know, I got involved over a decade ago, and I was like, heck no, and no way. And I think a lot of it is just because sometimes what happens is people, you know, they kind of push this down somebody's, you know, throat, if you will. And it can leave a bad taste at times. That's why
commission breath.
Yeah, commission breath. Exactly. It's also desperation. You know, and nobody likes that. So like, you know, we were having a conversation before we started the show, which was, you know, I tell people that I'm involved in the profession, but the reality is that I plant the seeds and it's their timing. I mean, I don't, you know, when I got involved in this profession, it was my timing. My background was Wall Street. I was so damn time poor. I was so tired of being tired. I'd leave in the morning when it was dark, get home in the evening when it was dark. You know, I saw Jill and my daughters on a very part-time basis. I mean, I was a miserable dude. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't know what network marketing could do for me. What I wanted out of it was just if I could have a little bit more time freedom. And I think that's what people don't really understand is that, you know, sometimes we pursue the money, but it's not really what most people want. Most people just want more time freedom.
Absolutely. And you know, it's a kind of a scam that I think the world is running versus people might think direct sales could be a scam. We'll address that, but the bigger scam is the 40-40-40, right? And trading your time for money that you'll never get back. See, in our business, the same hour that we might spend that we get paid for, that everybody else gets paid for once, we're getting paid for residually, right?
That's right.
Every month somebody orders that same hour.
Yeah. And
maybe they order for 2 months. Maybe they order for 2 years. Yeah. But the potential ROI on our time in our industry is so much better. It's not easier, as we say, but it's better.
Yeah, it is.
Such an awesome industry.
Well, and you know, and it's interesting because you bring up the whole potential of residual income. I want most people to really kind of think about this. I mean, Taylor, you and I are all about residual and everything too. But what most people don't understand is that, and I say this I'll probably say this on every show, is that we all have residual bills. The problem is most people don't have residual income to match that. That just basically means that if something happens to your job, you're going to have a tough time paying your bills. And that's why people get in trouble. And economies change. You know, a few years ago I had a health problem and I couldn't work for a few months. You know, it's a long story there, but I mean, I had a really bad health situation happen, and because of my choice of being involved in the network marketing business, Jill was able to pay our bills and be with me all the time because I was sick. And at the end of the day, that happens to a lot of people. People don't realize that you don't get a warning when your health goes bad. Okay, but it comes most people's way.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is why there's so much fear around the kind of 40-40-40 like you talked about, working your entire life for a job you don't really like and then retiring and not having any money and stuff. And you kind of look at it, but it takes a lot of work, but it takes a lot of self-discipline as well. And I think people are afraid of that, and they're also not trained to discipline themselves. They go through the entire school system, they work their entire life, and they have someone telling them what to do. And the moment that's gone, the freedom sounds great, but then they sit at home and they watch TV all day, and they don't really know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is
self-discipline is a big thing, and I look at it, you guys, like linear versus leveraged, right? Mm-hmm. So 95% of people are used to this linear income. Go in, get a job, you're only going to get paid what somebody's willing to pay you, and you'll never see that income again. Yeah. With us, we're going to work just as hard. People will work hard. I don't think most people aren't afraid of hard work.
Yeah.
The difference is, who are you working for? You're making somebody else rich, and so the leveraged income you can't get into unless you have money to spend.
Yeah.
It takes money to make money.
Yeah.
If you don't have $100,000 to go buy a duplex and rent it out, or put investments forth, the same money leveraging your time is what we have here. And I think it's just an education process, and I love trying to inspire people, whether it's through Facebook or social media, to if we can just educate people on the power of leveraged income, I mean, that's half the battle, and then they can make up their own minds.
Yeah, and the thing is crazy, and those are really good points. The thing that's crazy, though, is that a job is temporary. People think a job is permanent. It's not permanent. You're going to work your butt off, at your job, but it's temporary. You don't have that job on a permanent basis. It will end at some point. You're either going to have enough money for retirement, which most people don't, right? I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Most people will not have enough money in retirement. And so I tell people all the time that unless you find a model that is different than what you're doing, then you're going to have the same results as everybody else. I mean, that's just the reality of how everything works. And then the other thing, too, is, I said this on one of the other shows, which is everybody knows who Jack Welch is. I mean, the CEO of CEOs. But, he talks about control your destiny or someone else will. I mean, that is like so true, because what people don't realize is that somebody right now is determining the car that you drive, where you live, and how damn time poor that you are. That's because of somebody else saying this is the way that it is, and if you don't like it that way, then get another job.
I just posted this morning on Facebook, what are you doing today to live your life by design versus letting somebody else design it for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Proactivity mindset, absolutely.
Now, the other thing about network marketing, direct selling too, David, is most people don't understand that this industry's been around for over 100 years. They think it's
one of the most stable industries ever.
Yeah, and they also don't know the people who endorse the profession and endorse, you can look at Tony Robbins, you can look at Donald Trump, you could look at Warren Buffett. I mean, Richard Branson. I mean, there are so many people. Gary V. So Gary Vaynerchuk, he endorses. In fact, Gary Vaynerchuk actually speaks at a lot of our events and stuff like that.
Darren Hardy, publisher of Success Magazine.
Yeah, and I personally have spent some time with Darren. And the thing about it is that most people don't realize how well connected that this profession is to a lot of very successful people out there, but yet they listen to their broke neighbor or brother-in-law who says, don't get involved in that pyramid scheme. I mean, that's what's crazy to me. People listen to people that are not anywhere close to where they want to be in life, but yet they listen to them.
John Addison gave one of my favorite quotes ever. He said, never take advice from people more screwed up than you are.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is true. It's totally true.
Well, and the funny thing too is like GE is a very big company, right? And they just laid off 5,000 people. So it shows the kind of paradigm shift that has to occur there.
There really is no job security. I mean, back in the 40s and 50s, my grandma worked for the phone company for 40 years, right? Yeah. What did she get? A little plaque and free long distance phone calls for her life? Well, who was she going to call, right? I mean, I used to prank call China on hers because I knew she had unlimited calls all over the world. So I'd figure out the country code to China, and I'd be like, ni hao, what's going on?
Get your money's worth.
Just to get her money's worth on that free long distance. But the reality is there's zero loyalty in corporate America. And on top of it, they're all clawing over your back. I mean, in my former career, I was at the peak of my profession, working for the biggest pop star in the world, and everybody wanted to throw me under the bus. I mean, I should have been served up at IHOP. I was so flat, because everybody was just running me over, throwing me under the bus, making me look bad. Yeah. And that's the backstabbing that goes on. You might have that nice little comfort zone that you live in, but the reality is people are mostly motivated by that fear of being one paycheck away from the breadline, right, or welfare.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's that fear that is a powerful prison that keeps people in their boxes. And once we can get outside of that and experience it, even an extra $100 a month, Conrad, like $300 a month, you start to get a little taste of what a residual looks like. And it's powerful.
Yeah, it is. And I think what people don't realize too is that you make a few $100s a month. Okay, so you can put that towards your retirement. You could put that towards your utility bills. You could put that towards something that takes the pressure off of your daytime job. I mean, you have to think different in order to get different results. I mean, that's what bottom line is. I think the biggest thing, though, that attracted me to network marketing, direct selling, though, is the fact that, yes, you meet a lot of people. I have a huge network. I mean, like I said, you and I have met, and I have a big network, and I really do give credit to the network marketing profession because it is really one of the best platforms to build your network, which I tell people once again all the time that your network is everything in life.
Your network determines your net worth.
It does. It's so true. So if what you're doing right now is not growing your network, then you have to do something different, man. Listen, those of you guys that are listening right now, if you look at your network right now and you're looking around and it's just the people that you hang around with on the weekend and just drink beer with and you're not really going anywhere with them, you really need to change it up. Or how do you expect to have different results? You got to change it up.
Absolutely.
Raise the bar.
Yeah, and you're gonna look around you and you're going to see the ambitions of the people around you, and that's what your life is going to eventually turn into. And so if you're not careful, if you're not proactive about who you're spending time with, about spending time in those areas that excite you, that move you forward, and you have this mindset that you deserve to relax, that you just want to kick it back, then that's where you're going to end up ultimately.
Yeah. Now the other thing too is that, obviously what people don't realize with network marketing is it allows you to have other businesses, other ventures. You have them, I have them. I'm involved in working with in the film industry, and we're doing some stuff with short documentaries. I have a social media agency, hustlemediagroup.net, right?
Yeah.
With Taylor and a few other guys, and we obviously oversee brands, and we're a digital marketing agency, and then I have some other ventures too. But the thing about it is it allows you to have other careers. You don't. Sometimes people think that, well, you only do network marketing, you only do direct selling. Or sometimes people, even in our profession, they'll say, well, only do network marketing, only direct selling. Why? You're messing up the story. I have somebody on here. She's a professor over at Azusa Pacific. And one of the things that she says is that, some people are telling her, well, you should only do this. She goes, well, I'm passionate, Conrad, for what I do. She teaches entrepreneurship at Azusa Pacific. I said, you don't have to stop doing what you're doing. The direct selling network marketing allows you to be able to have other careers. So, with you, I mean, you're going somewhere for something else that you're looking at doing. But when we, before we get into actually your music stuff, because your music background's ridiculous. Like the people that you have worked with and all that kind of stuff. Because I want to know actually, in fact, kind of tell everybody right now before we're going to break. Tell everybody a little bit how you went from the music profession into network marketing. Like, where did that happen?
Absolutely. Well, so without the backstory, I'll just tell you I was on tour with Lady Gaga. She was, a household name. My wife was her personal assistant. I met her through, basically I had worked at some people with DreamWorks and Universal, part of the music group there. And I went down to Will Smith's office, actually, in Beverly Hills, Overbrook Entertainment it's called, and had an interview basically with this little guy named Troy Carter, who is now like an Uber tech guru. He was one of the first people into Uber and other people. I think he's one of the heads of Spotify right now. But I interviewed, he said, hey, yo, what was your last gig? He was this really tiny, skinny, like African-American dude, and he was like, yo, so what was your last gig? I'm like, yeah, I just took 150 people with Lauryn Hill around Europe from Dubai to the Arctic Circle on private jets. And he's like, yo, you did that? And
That's
said,
sick.
yeah. He goes, so, well, if you did Lauryn Hill, I'm sure you could handle my girl, but I just got a phone call, and he said, look, I want to introduce you to Lady Gaga. Went down to some random studio in Hollywood. She walked in with duct tape and shoulder pads, and latex high heels, kind of looking part drama queen geek, part stripper, part tranny, honestly. And she was just kind of out there doing her thing. She had a lust for life. And it was her, me, and a DJ, and we did 5 cities. And by the end of it, she was sleeping on my shoulder on the airplane. It was like a brother thing. I introduced her to my wife. My wife and her got along great. She begged my wife to come on tour. My wife's like, I don't tour, but she somehow got my wife out on tour. And, the rest is history. But at that point, she was kind of a nobody who had this intense passion to even call her first record The Fame before anybody knew who she was. She just, in her mind, was already there. It wasn't motivated by profit. It was passion. And, we just had an incredible career. But ultimately, to fast forward, after a couple years, we ended up having our first child, who is now 9 years old, which is hard to believe. But I couldn't live my life on the road. And, my bishop at church just said, do you want to watch your kid grow up? And I didn't want to be a Skype dad or a, FaceTime and realize I need to find something better. That's when I found, direct sales. I had been an event manager for a multi-billion-dollar direct sales company. My wife had a little business with ACN and did pretty well. And, so I had the background, and then ended up in the corporate world with this company that had very little sales when we started. And then when we left, we had done over $100 million in sales, got acquired by a big private equity firm. So It was an interesting, 7-year overnight success. But ultimately, it was born out of the desire to be a dad and be with my son and
I love that.
not live out of a suitcase.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about passion, because that's what it's all about. People are miserable out there because they're not following their passion. So when we come back, we're going to talk about passion. All right, welcome back to the Business Coach. Well, we have a really, really cool guest here. We always have cool guests, but this is an exceptional guest.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Conrad. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So what we were talking about passion, David, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that most people in North America are really worldwide. I mean, I've traveled around the world. People are pretty miserable right now just because a lot of people aren't really following their full passion. They're not following what their heart really wants them to be doing. In fact, a lot of people have careers just because, maybe their parents told them this is what you should do in your life. I mean, which is sad to me. What is it about you that you, because you've always been involved with the music industry and you obviously love the industry and you're very connected in the music industry too. But what is it about for you as far as following passion? Why is following passion so important for most people? Why don't they do that? Why don't more people follow their passion? What's the problem there?
Well, so great question. And Conrad, like you, I relate to traveling. That's my other passion is travel. I'm at 97 countries and I just keep going. One thing I learned, thank you. One thing I learned in traveling is that everywhere you go, people don't have the same opportunities we have right here in North America.
Yeah.
And so the more you travel, the more you realize that those people out there who may be miserable, they find their own happiness regardless of finances or circumstances. A kid could be just as happy in a trash heap in India playing with a can and not know any different.
Yeah.
But the more you travel, the more you realize there's a reason why immigrants are 3 times as likely to become millionaires in this country. It's because they realize how much opportunity, and opportunities all around us. So for me, it was just this passion for the music business and making, tapes in my living room as a teenager and then in my bedroom. And then ultimately realizing that I just wanted to be in the music industry, didn't know how, wasn't connected to some famous uncle or family member, didn't have all this, I was middle-class household, single mother. And I just had my mom, as I was 15 years old, driving me to concerts. And by the time I was 15, had already snuck backstage. I always thank Ice Cube for my break in the music business. The first Lollapalooza, Ice Cube came out, and I'm sorry, Ice-T, not Ice Cube. Ice-T, I can't keep the ices. Vanilla Ice, who was
one of
it?
the ice.
One of the ices, right?
Yeah.
So it was Ice-T. And he came out to sign some autographs, and that distracted security long enough for me to sneak under these little barricades and get backstage at the first Lollapalooza. And I remember later that night, and I had met everybody, and I came back, and my friends that I'd come to the concert with were like, how did you do that? We always knew. And, I had my picture in the yearbook with Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, this is high school. I knew it.
Yeah.
So it just came from a passion of like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. So finally, the way I got my start in the music business was There was a Depeche Mode concert in 1993 at the Forum, and I snuck
Love
backstage.
Depeche Mode, man.
They're my favorite band.
From the day.
I hosted their Facebook page last year. 7.3 million people on there for a full day. I got to share my stories,
Nice, man.
and I shared this one. I snuck backstage. So you know how the roadies wear the laminates, right?
Yeah.
Well, the truck drivers and the roadies, they don't care. They're wearing sweaters and stuff, but you can kind of tell they're a roadie.
Yeah.
So as you're walking down the ramp at the Forum, some of their laminates are closed. So I got one of the actual lanyards, but I had a fake laminate. But I kind of covered it up and then struck up a conversation with the truck driver. He didn't know who I was. I struck right at the moment when we were walking through security. So security thought I was part of the crew.
Yeah.
I got backstage. They kicked me out 3 times. Finally, I said, I will clean toilets. I will do whatever. And they gave me a phone number to a company called Avalon Attractions, which went to Clear Channel and is now Live Nation. I literally started as a towel boy, getting coffee for Ringo Starr, taking the Dixie Chicks dogs to the vet, and ended up with my first job with John Tesh, the piano player, as an actual production assistant. And then the rest is history. I went from one band to another, from Lauryn Hill to Lifehouse, and then of course culminating with Gaga. And it was a 10-year career, and it was just it was passionate. And this was before my band even. So
let's talk about Gaga, because obviously she did a phenomenal job. I mean, I actually haven't seen the movie, and that's because my daughter Claire says, "Well, yeah, Dad, he dies at the end." I'm like, why did you tell me? Right? Why did you tell me? So she kind of blew it with that, but the whole
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. So tell me a little bit about what was it like, just because she's obviously an incredibly successful business person, because a lot of people don't realize that you can be great at branding and everything else, but you got to be able to make money, right?
Yeah.
She's obviously been very successful at that, in marketing, branding, and going from from music to actually being a very accomplished actress. Tell us a little bit about working with Gaga, as far as like what was it like working with her, as far as the her as an entrepreneur and a business person?
Well, Conrad, I go back to 2008 in Vietnam. We were in the middle of we got our first big break to play the Miss Universe pageant for the song Just Dance. It had just come out. We had just done this extended remix to be part of the Miss Universe pageant. And it was at a critical time when her record was being delivered to the record company with all the credits and the thank yous on the back and the liner notes. And I remember sitting in the hotel room with her, and it was just her and I, and we were trying to figure out these album credits. And I'm like, Gaga, who else do you want to thank? I mean, she's like, you know what? I just want to make my music. I just want to make the music. I don't know about all this stuff. So I ended up writing the liner notes in her first album, The Fame. So when you see me under there, you'll see like, David and Angela, but we had little nicknames in her House of Gaga. But
that's cool.
I realized that she realized early on to let people that are good at the stuff that she's not good at or not passionate about, let those people do that stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
And if I just focus on my art, the rest will follow. Yeah. She was not in it to make money. She really wasn't. She knew the potential was there. She got a big record deal and all of that, but she just wanted to do her art. And even our first year of touring, we were putting arena-sized shows into clubs called the Fame Ball, and we would spend ungodly amounts of money, and she just cared about the fans. And we were making stuff with duct tape. I remember the first tour that we did, she got out, she said, "Hey, Dave, go get some cardboard boxes out of the trash." I came back, we laid out a bunch of cardboard boxes. She got some Sharpies and duct tape and scissors and cut them all out into these squares and just started sketching out her entire show, every single song, what the set was going to look like, what the Vespa that was going to come in that was decked out in
like a vision
mirror
board.
Ball. It was a vision board for her show.
Yeah, that's cool.
And she let her creative energy flow, and I just gave her the tools to do that and let her run with it.
Wow. Isn't that cool?
It was fun. And she's one of these people where it's the hardest working person you've ever met. And we're talking about millennials. I heard you guys talking earlier. She is or was a millennial.
Yeah.
Okay. But I had never met anybody who worked harder than those around her.
Yeah.
Like, she's one of these people, like, if she doesn't see you working, you may as well not be working. Even if you are, she doesn't see it. Yeah. No one will work hard. The harder you work, the luckier you get. But to her, it's not work. When you are passionate about what you're doing, you don't look at it like work.
Yeah.
It's your life's mission. Yeah. And I mean, I take passion as probably my number one thing that I've learned from her is find your purpose, find your passion, and the rest will follow in whatever that looks like. We're all not going to make it big like Gaga, but obviously, even just being my name just associated with her on Google and all of that stuff has helped my career immensely.
Yeah, and so you've worked with Lauryn Hill as well.
Lauryn Hill is another person who she does not care about what time she has to be on stage or who's in the audience. Like that, no one can phase Lauryn Hill. She's called Miss Hill, by the way.
Yeah.
Miss Hill. And so she would go on 2 hours late. She wouldn't care. Said, Miss Hill, you have $250,000 that they're about to cancel right now. And if I would say that to her, I learned like when the first few shows, that would just make her push longer. She's not in it for the money. She's just in it to pursue her passion. Now, at the end of the day, we can say, oh, yeah, right, not in it for the money. Of course, she's going to get paid. Yeah. But she's not looking at her bank account at the end of the tour going, why am I rich?
Yeah.
She was there to promote the Marley family and help their legal fund to help get a lot of their royalties back from the Jamaican government. I mean, that was her purpose.
Right.
So she was out there spreading that. She was pregnant with Rohan Marley's kid while we were on the tour.
Yeah.
So she was out there 3 months pregnant, busting her butt all night, singing and rehearsing. She would rehearse on off days. Yeah. Everyone would be like, oh, thank God we have a day off. No way. 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning, we're rehearsing.
So work hard, passion, love what you do. So for people that are actually listening to the show and watching the show, there's a lot of people out there that, they're just going through the every day they wake up and they're just kind of going through life, Monday through Friday, everything else, and they're like, I mean, everybody has passion for something. Okay, it's not like it's a unique thing to just a few people. Everybody has passion. The key is, are you going to do something with it? So what would you say to people that are out there right now that have a passion for doing something different than what they're doing? What would you say to people like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were to make, there's a lot of talk of vision boards, but it's like if you were to actually take pictures of what you would want your life to look like.
Yeah.
And what that would be. So for me, it was traveling. How can I make a living traveling? Well, I learned to do it through music and travel, and I got paid to travel on someone else's dime. I was traveling. I mean, all my first trips to Russia and Australia and Japan and Europe and, I mean, crazy places, Dubai and, the Arctic Circle, that was someone else paid me to do that. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And so, I think just really getting down and you're into your core and figuring out, what it is that truly makes you happy and just finding a way, man.
Well, and the work ethic that is required to achieve this kind of success that your dreams are made of, whether it's Gaga or Lauryn Hill or yourself, how you talked about it, the work ethic that is needed is only sustainable if you're doing what you love. And I think that's very important. If you work really, really hard with something you hate, you will burn out. And that's where that idea of burnout comes from. But when you talk to those people that live the life that they love, they never talk about burnout. They're there, they're living it, they're pushing hard and they're working. But like you said, it's not work.
Yeah, I mean, with Gaga, we were in and out of the hospital almost every week because we would go for 3 days literally without sleeping. I mean, our sleep would be, typical day in the life of being on the road with Gaga or a lot of musicians, but Gaga especially. We would do 2 shows a night to break her career. So we're doing a straight club and a gay club. We finish that at 2 in the morning, get to the hotel for a 6 a.m. lobby call.
A straight club and a gay club.
Still got to get the demographics.
Steal the hotel pillow so that we can lean over in the car on the way to the airport and sleep on the plane for 3 hours and do it all again. Go straight to a radio station for interviews and press, then go straight to a gig, maybe sneak in some dinner. So we would do this for day in and day out all around the world. She was huge in Sweden and random markets that nobody even knew. Canada, she broke before the U.S. Nobody knew who she was. We had been hustling for a year straight, nonstop, Conrad. Yeah. And when you see my name in the book and the quotes that were taken out of context about it, the rise and rise of Lady Gaga, Poker Face is what the name of the book, but I'm quoted, my wife's quoted in there. They took everything out of context about the diet and the stuff that she was starving and all this BS, totally out of context. We literally, it was all we could do to barely survive, when we were there. So that's why we were going to the hospital. I probably should have gone to the hospital just as much.
Yeah.
But again, work ethic, you nailed it. And then I think when you're passionate enough about what you do, the rest will follow. Like you said, the burnout factor. We would gladly burn out on stuff like that. So,
but the thing about it though is, being burned out at times is entrepreneurship. Okay, that's normal, man.
80% of entrepreneurship.
If you're an entrepreneur right now, or you're a business owner right now, and you're feeling kind of burned out, that's normal. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that's actually normal. Okay, so what you do though is you have to fight through it, and you have to, obviously you need to take a break. I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, even if God knew that we needed breaks.
Sundays.
Okay, I'm saying it's not like he did. It's not like it's something foreign. Take a break, but don't give up. Don't let up or anything like that. I think one of the biggest problems though for people out there when they don't pursue their passion though is, I think a lot of them are afraid of failures. They're afraid I might fail. They're afraid of the failures in the past. But success is a mountain of failures. And of course wisdom is a mountain of failures.
Well, we know that fear is a big motivator behind that, right? Before failure is fear of failure. Yeah. And we know fear means, false evidence appearing real, and you've got to find that inner drive and motivation to step off the ledge. And sometimes you're going to fail, but, there's people that write books about it. Fail forward, go for no. I mean, there's a gazillion books on failure, and it's got to be from within. I mean, maybe it's a guru, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your circle of your 5 people you spend the most time with, but somewhere you've got to kick yourself in the butt to just get up and go for it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course the other thing is, to find your passion, you have to try things. You might try something and say, what, that's not for me. But you have to do it long enough to know if it's for you. But the thing is that there's things out there that you have to unless you swing the bat, you're never gonna know. You're never gonna know if that's gonna be. I mean, look at going back to Gaga. I mean, you think she would have thought when she was working with you that she'd be an actress at the level she is now?
Well, but between us, I think she did, because she was a theater kid. She's a rare breed, okay? And you know what? This is probably a good point to kind of transition or end this thing on, is that the people that I've surrounded myself with and that I've learned from, by the way, are borderline possessed. And I say that word, I don't say it lightly. Possessed, literally, there's something in their mind that just keeps them pushing forward. Like that movie 300, where those guys are just like, I'm going to get to the mountain.
Best movie of all time. Best movie of all time.
Seriously. And so, like, if you're not possessed about what it is you're doing, and I don't mean that to sound freaky, like, you got to find that thing that you get possessed about.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's the only way.
I mean, that girl that you just had on is possessed about cats. Like, she's wearing the cats. Like, she is all in.
And she's doing it.
Yeah. So it's like, where is that? Yeah. And I don't know if just people are wafting around trying to find that still, which is cool if you're still on your journey. But I mean, I just have my haircut. I go get my haircut like so much. I don't know. I think I'm addicted to haircuts. But like the people I go to, that they are all in on it. Yeah. They just love it.
So the key is all in. Whatever it is that you're going to do, commit to it. Be all in. And the other thing too, but why that's important as we wind this down is that what people don't realize is you can't be one of those people that talks about what you're going to do and you never do it. No, nobody's going to respect you. You're not going to influence anybody. Man. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing about, maybe that's why I have the network that I have, because I'm an executor. If you say you're going to do something, you better damn well do it. Otherwise, don't say it, because you're going to have much more credibility with people if you just do it. I mean, what a concept of your yes is your yes and your no is your no. Right?
It's lost in society today.
It is.
It really is.
It is, and it's crazy to me. But I do believe that with this show, I think that we can make a difference out there, because your story is going to help a ton of people. And that's what this is all about for me. When I made a decision that I wanted to start a podcast show, I wanted to say, look, how can I help people? How can I help people actually with the real deal of entrepreneurship and the real deal of business? Because we all have our moments, but the key is you just don't stay there. So that's the whole purpose of this show, is for us to be able to go out there and just bring some hope to people, but along with some action, because hope is only one thing. It's the action that actually changes the situation.
Absolutely. Totally. And Conrad, let's leave them with an action item. Speaking of action, all right? Because I never leave an interview or training without saying, if there's one thing you can do right now to get out of your routine It's just 10 minutes of personal development every single day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube is out there.
100%.
I mean, we could list anyone from Gary Vee to Darren Hardy to Jim Rohn to John Maxwell to Zig Ziglar, the old school to the new school. Find that place, because that's the biggest, I guess if you want to say, I have no regrets. I really don't. But if I were to go back to you right now, and I was speaking to myself 20 years ago, I would say find these people right away.
Absolutely.
When I used to go to a bookstore, it was like, I literally was more interested in books, surfing magazine instead of personal development. But if I would have had an older brother or even a dad who said
a mentor, a good mentor,
and I found those later in life, and I had amazing mentors. Don't get me wrong. That's the other point. So 10 minutes of personal development every day without fail. And if you work out, do it while you work out. Turn off the music for a minute or 10 and do that. The second thing would be, you just nailed it, find a mentor.
Absolutely.
All right. And it's a good chance to plug my 12-minute mentor. You can find me on Facebook. It's a private little group at 12-minute mentor. It's the number 12-minute mentor.
Go there, David. And David, we're going to have you on the show more. We just talked about that a little bit ago. We're going to get you on a rotating schedule here as a normal guest.
We can cover so much awesomeness.
I know.
So much.
I mean, we can change some lives, you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about for me. What's the point of complaining without a solution? You want to see change in a lot of different things in our society. Well, great. This to me is a great platform. Make sure you guys tell people about the Business Coach, because at the end of the day, I really do think that this is a great way for people to get mentoring.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is all about for me. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys here real soon.
You have been listening to the Business Coach Podcast with host Conrad Padilla. Join us next week, same time and place. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share. For more information, check out our website at thebusinesscoachpodcast.com.